So how many of you guys watched or heard of the Kentucky Derby, which was run this weekend? Okay, good. So my name is Kirsten Anderson. I'm an animal science major with an equine emphasis, and I was interested in looking at the current state of the thoroughbred breeding industry. So what drove this research question is that there's been a decline in the breed's durability, the soundness, and the career longevity. So I wanted to look into possible causes. And the reason why I'm interested in this is because I am an animal science major with an equine emphasis, and I'm looking to eventually get into the horse racing industry sometime. So I was looking at traits that breeders are breeding for right now, which is precociousness, which means that when they're younger, they show more speed, more promise. They have better racing when they're younger. Speed, they want speedier horses, and then early maturity, so they can get them to the racetrack as fast as they can. So my rhetorical situation was that I was a staff writer, researcher at Blood Horse Publications, and I was writing to senior correspondent Steve Haskin, and I was going to be providing research for a future article on the decline of the thoroughbred breed that he would use. My research triangle, I used journal articles on genetics and heritability of certain traits, conformation. The web, I used Equibase, which is a database with all the racing information you can find on there, and drf.com, which is Daily Racing Form. And then empirical, I did an interview with Dr. Natasha Hamilton. She's at the University of Sydney in Australia, and she does equine genetics and works with Australian racehorses. So I researched all my journal articles online for genetics and heritability, and I interviewed Natasha via email, and I compared past research with research that she's done. So what I found out was that there's no major heritability with these traits, and that reduced racing intensity and frequency results more in injuries and fatalities than do the horse's pedigree or genetics. Also, Natasha found out in one of her studies that horses who race at 2 years old actually have longer careers than horses who wait until they're mature before they start racing, which people believe is because the added stress to their bones actually makes them stronger, because the bones they have to be put under stress before they'll actually build up. And then the table there is just a summary of some of her research and some of the heritability numbers for certain characteristics. So I found out that decline is really a multifaceted issue, and can't really be pinned on one thing. And some other possible causes would be medication, general and race day. Race day medications right now, the only two medications that they allow is Bute, which is a pain reliever, and then Lasix, or furosemide, and that is an anti-bleeding medication that stops EIPH, which is exercise-induced pulmonary hemorrhage, which is when their respiratory system bleeds, and it can negatively affect performance, and sometimes they'll actually bleed out of their nose if it gets bad enough. And then also current training and conditioning norms. A lot of trainers nowadays, they are training a lot less hard on their horses because they think they're more fragile, but a lot of times this just makes it worse, because then the horses aren't ready to perform when it finally gets to race day. So this issue has to be explored further to fully realize what all the causes are. Any questions?
This is Joe. So for like thoroughbred race horses, I know if like thoroughbred dogs, they have a tendency of having some sort of problems, like just from the genetic pool being a lot smaller. Does that happen with horses as well, or?
Natasha did some research on that, and the inbreeding or the line breeding that they use really doesn't affect any of their performance or any of their soundness. It more affects their like fertility and like breeding aspects.